The Outsiders is a 2022 found footage horror film that was directed by Robbie Banfitch, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it technically was released at some small time festivals in February of 2022 and then had a bigger theatrical release and streaming release around February of 2023. So I think I first heard of this film again on the top 10 of 22 Shots of Moods, top 10 of 2023. And this film has been popping up in, I've been noticing it quite a bit after that. So I noticed that Vinegar Syndrome, one of their partner labels, put this film out. And then I heard other, YouTubers talking about it. And then I was browsing through Tubi and saw that it was streaming on Tubi. And that's how I watched it. And I kept hearing about it. I heard about this vinyl that was put out also by Vinegar Syndrome. That's the soundtrack to the movie. So it kept popping up over and over. I'm just like, I really have to check this out because a lot of people are talking good and bad. And this is a surreal film. This is my first time watch, obviously, and I really went into it not prepared for what was delivered. I heard it was found footage in the desert. Bunch of people, encounter something, and it kind of plays out found footage style. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. I'll check it out. Was not prepared for what I got. I knew at an hour and 15 minutes this film was probably going to be, be paced in a way that it's a slow burn. So I was expecting for somewhat of a slow burn, and a lot of people say this film really takes a long time to develop. So I was kind of ready and expecting some of those things. But the first part of the film is certainly just really standard character development. Some people would consider it boring, so definitely know what you're getting into on that part. It definitely, I would say, dragged a little bit too much in the first act. Like they could have chopped it off, a little bit from that to quicken up the pace a little bit. But when the second part comes around, it starts getting really surreal and horrific, and this is a very gory film and very disturbing film. It packs a punch, but it also gets pretty artsy, and that's what I was not prepared for. It gets very experimental, very art house kind of. It's an experimental film essentially. A lot of people say that this was like Skinamarink. I would disagree. This film feels completely different from Skinamarink, even in its style. I mean, just because they're experimental films, you still have like an experimental here that's apples and an experimental film here that's oranges. They don't feel the same whatsoever. But it's cool in a year or two where there seem to be a few films that came out this year, and experimental cinema seems to be something that's being played around with, and that's a good thing in my opinion because it gives different ideas. Things don't get boring. Things don't get repetitive, and it's film has felt a little bit repetitive for a long time. That seeing these experimental things and things that tried new things, a lot of word jumble there, seem to be a little bit of a breath of fresh air kind of thing. So it gets pretty. It turns slightly into a creature feature. I don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely you're dealing with the unknown a lot, and the film really dives into keeping it unknown. And the camera style is basically very dark in a lot of places, like from the middle onwards when basically everything starts to happen. You don't get to see a lot. It feels a little Blair Witch. I would say because of the artsiness of it, like this film reminded me, even though it's quite different too, but it reminded me like if like Midsommar took place in the desert and was found footage. It kind of gives that A24-ish style in the second half of the movie. Like I said, Blair Witch styles in year two, especially with the shaky cam. It's insane. And you don't even see a lot on screen because a lot of the screen is dark with just like a little miniature light that focuses almost like a laser. So you're only focused on certain amount of things. And it's very hallucinatory. And that plays a little bit into the theme of the film as well. But yeah, this film goes for the gore, and I like that. And it's heavy, and it almost makes you sick. It did make me a little bit sick Partially because of the physical like motion of everything, but also partially just because of how heavy and deep this goes with the grossness and intensity of the horror. Like this is tried and true a horror film, and it's going to merit a lot of rewatches. And like I said, the big reason for that mainly is because I wasn't prepared for, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't expect to get what I got. So it kind of took me by surprise, and I didn't even have time to kind of try and put the pieces together. And you get like bizarre things, like some scenes are like upside down, where like the sand is where the sky is and the sky is where the sand is, and people are walking upside down. There's like time loop situations. There's many ways that you could probably interpret this film with what's going on, kind of thing, and make your own ideas on, you know, what is going on, because like it really doesn't give you a whole lot of information to work with, kind of thing. I got a little bit of Descent vibes throughout the Descent, with how the film was shot and how it was paced, and things that would happen. It definitely, even though it's taking place in, you know, a giant open landscape, it feels very claustrophobic. There's scenes where, you know, it feels enclosed. It feels like the characters are, you know, in tight spaces, even though they're kind of not. Except for some like hallucinatory stuff that I mentioned, where there's situations that they almost feel dreamlike, and I couldn't really tell what was going on, but there's sequences where they don't take place in the desert, but they do. It's really hard to explain, especially keeping it spoiler free. And just characters' reactions, like the characters, the actors and actresses dove hard into, you know, going insane. Like it really, you watch this and it's almost like you're literally watching people trip out on LSD. So the director of the film, Robbie, did, and he also wrote the film and acts in it as one of the leads. Amazing job. So I can't take anything away from the craft of this film. I gave it a 4 out of 5 just because you can't deny that it's expertly made. And I really like films with rewatch value as well. So this film gains a lot of points for that. It's just, I really do need to watch it again. It needs it, and I could get better enjoyment out of this film going into it, knowing what to expect, which this first time watch, I didn't have that. So at least with this review, maybe you can get a little bit more of an idea of what kind of film this is. But other than that, I would recommend it. I would just strongly suggest that you know what you're getting into, and maybe you know, look into it a little bit more, and know what kind of films you like, and then make the decision for yourself. So, but yeah, it's intense. It is really freaking intense, and it's a really well crafted film for what it's going for, hands down. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.